Welcome, everyone, to the captive audience. We're starting a few minutes late today, and I'm flying solo tonight. I'm Kevin Hoare, and it is the 19th of August. So I'm just going to kind of run through. There's been a lot of headlines, as you know, tonight. Maybe many of you are enthralled with the Democrat National Committee uh, holding its convention in Chicago, Illinois. There are definitely some groups that are very enthralled with it, but they seem to be protesters. And hi, Lori. Good to see you. Yeah, there's definitely really strong protests taking place outside of the Democrat National Convention. And uh, they do get a lot of attention. They are getting a lot of attention. In order to appease them, Joe Biden sent Secretary Blinken, the Secretary of State to Israel, to tell everybody that Israel has accepted the latest ceasefire proposal that Hamas didn't show up to negotiate about. Uh, Clearly, this is a bunch of eyewash for the benefit of trying to tame the protesters at the Democrat National Convention. Because if Kamala Harris speaks out against them, what's going to happen? Kamala Harris is going to lose the state of Michigan. Pretty simple. And that's what they're mainly concerned about. They don't really care about Israel. They don't care about the Palestinians at all or Gaza. They just care about getting reelected. Now, there are definitely some Democrats that are very concerned, more concerned about Gaza and helping Hamas expand its reach from the river to the sea than they are Israel. But right now, the number one thing that Democrats care about is winning the presidential election. And that is front stage and center tonight here in the news. I saw we've had a whole bunch of folks join us. Glad to have you on. Hi, Karen. Very good to see you on Saturday. So glad that I was there, and Sunny, that we get to speak at David's commemoration. And we love you, and we miss David. And it was a real pleasure getting to meet David Jr., actually, because, well, as he said, he's his father's son in so many ways. And we're going to see if we can't invite David on here, David Jr., to come on in the coming weeks and join us as we kind of review some of the things that were really great about the event on Saturday. And of course, a lot of pictures that you just wouldn't believe. But they're great. Anyway, back to the news. So the FBI has confirmed that, in fact, the Trump campaign was the subject of a hack by the Islamic Republic of Iran. Now, as many of you remember, the Democrats literally lost their minds over what they claimed was an attempt, and a pathetically failed attempt, by Russia to interfere with the 2016 election, for which they credit President Trump's victory, even though the only person who ever colluded with Russia in any way via a British, now disgraced British intelligence agent, Christopher Steele, was the Clinton campaign. And they spent 2 years making a complete phony story of fake Russian collusion that helped them win Congress, control of the House of Representatives in 2018. So, yeah, these things have consequences. They really do. No offense, Nicholas. Me too. And so, really, what we're finding now is that the Democrats, they're really concerned when it causes them to lose, but they couldn't give a crap about election interference if it helps them win or hurts their opponent. And that's what happened here. And this is the Islamic Republic of Iran, the chief sponsor of terror in the world, a country that is threatening to develop and use nuclear weapons, particularly against Israel. and is the one who funded, sponsored, and planned the October 7th attack by Hamas. They are funding, sponsoring, and actively assisting Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, which is increasingly trying to generate a armed conflict with Israel. Fortunately, Hezbollah and Hamas are actually losing leaders left and right to the Israelis, who just don't mess around with this kind of stuff. Unlike the United States government, headed by President Brandon, the now defunct President Brandon, and Vice President Giggles. So, or presumptive nominee Giggles, which I guess is what we're going to find out about tonight. Iran is indeed funded by the Biden administration. They claim that none of this money that the Biden administration is giving, which they say is simply Iran's money that was caught in sanctions, so that the money it was impounded, could not be released to Iran. And they negotiated a deal where they gave Iran $6 billion for 5 or 6 hostages, which of course just led to more hostages being taken all around the world, because you can cash in with the Brandon administration. And they said that money could not be provided to terrorists or to the Iranian military. But of course, one thing the Biden administration and Joe Biden himself should know all too well is that money is fungible. So if you go and save the Iran government money that they would have to spend to, say, provide for public services or the health and welfare of their people, and instead you provide that to them, they'll take that money and give it to the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Force, which is the group that they use to help terrorists, and then they'll go give it to terrorists and malign state actors to stir up trouble and murder people. I don't know why Biden doesn't seem to be fully cognizant or able to admit that money is fungible, because one thing that we did find out today is that the House of Representatives has come forward with a report, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, that in fact they believe Joe Biden committed impeachable offenses. This is a good day to feature Joe Biden at the Democrat National Convention. They're going to talk about how wonderful he is. They're going to shed tears. They're going to say what a success he's been. And they're going to say, therefore, Kamala Harris is a big success. And that all the failures had nothing to do with Kamala. And anyway, what failures, right? So this is what you're going to hear. There's going to be this fictional version of the world that involves spin and distortion and half-truths. And this is absolutely going to it's going to defraud half the country. And the big problem with it is half the country is watching media that won't tell them that they're being fed complete and utter garbage. In fact, that part of the media will promote it. So here's what the 291-page report from the House probe on impeachable offenses concluded. He enriched his family, and his family received foreign payments for which there are bank records, and utilized Joe Biden, often via speakerphone, in meetings and when they were speaking with business partners. And they have testimony, they have bank records, and it weaves a web of conspiracy that the Biden administration and their business associates, in fact, received tens of millions of dollars from foreign interests by leading those interests to believe that such payments would provide them access to and influence with President Biden. That's what they did. They said it's overwhelming evidence that he participated in a scheme to monetize his office and enrich his family, which was noticeable given the fact that the guy has been in public office since he was 29 years of age, sometime I believe in the early 70s. And yet he's got mansions and he's got money, and gee, how'd that happen? So everybody knows that if you go into politics without much money, so-called working class Joe from Scranton, and you come out the other end with a bunch of money, you are crooked. Anyway, they tallied the number at $27 million. And they were often obscured in shell companies to hide their true origins. Some of the funds sent from China, for example, ended up directly in Joe Biden's bank account. So they weren't even that clever about it. Hunter Biden received significant compensation for several foreign ventures and positions. His role on the board of directors of the corrupt Ukrainian energy company Burisma, whose owner was facing corruption allegations, Biden received $1 million year salary while on that board. $1 million a year. And as we know, Joe Biden believes that Hunter Biden is the smartest man in the world, and or the smartest man he knows, which I don't know. Usually presidents have a wide array of acquaintances, even before they're president, and he still said that. But Hunter Biden, frankly, doesn't have any qualifications and was unable to provide any discernible benefit other than access to his father. Yeah, wrong business, exactly. And you bet Vice President Giggles knew about this. That's why she wanted to be vice president and stay there, because she thought, hey, this shoe could drop at any time. Hunter Biden received a $5 million loan in 2017 from entities connected to the energy firm CEFC, China Energy. And it was an interest-free forgivable loan, also known as free money. Emails from Hunter Biden's abandoned laptop show the loan was intended to benefit the Biden family, referred to mysteriously as the BD family. It's they're not even really clever criminals, and they could never fool real investigators, and they didn't. So this report really goes into some great detail also about a Russian oligarch named Yelena Baturia, who deposited $3.5 million in 2014 while Joe Biden was actually vice president into an account tied to Hunter Biden's businesses, and also committed to invest in a New York real estate project that Biden's farmer just weeks before she reportedly met Joe Biden at a dinner in the Georgetown neighborhood of Washington, D.C. So this is a face-to-face meeting for which there are records. Biden also met with the chairman of that Chinese energy company, and spoke to an assembled group at that time. And, I don't know if I'm trying to remember the name of the TV show on Netflix. It has Frank Underwood. I'm just forgetting the name of it. Let me see if some of you have Brain Dead Family. Exactly. See if some of you can remember the name of it. I'm just blanking on it right now. But some of the plots here actually sound suspiciously similar to some of the plots that were in that show. A meeting with a Chinese energy company magnate, wiring money around. I just wonder if sometimes that show, House of Cards, thank you, Karen, House of Cards, if this isn't the Biden House of Cards. Now, the thing is, he's not running again, and some people are going to say, well, Joe Biden doesn't need to be prosecuted or impeached or anything like that. But you know what? He's still president of the United States. He's in charge of thousands of nuclear weapons, and he's working actively to elect his vice president as his successor. And all the people who knew about this deserve to be held accountable. So I would like to see this, if it doesn't help in terms of winning the election, I don't know if it does or not. It may not be the largest factor, but I think it establishes a fact pattern. And it does so in the week of the Democrat National Convention, where the Democrats are going to laud Joe Biden as some great statesman for realizing that his brain didn't work anymore and he couldn't hide it, and therefore he was going to lose the election, and they had to get rid of that loser and replace him. I think one day people were saying riding with Biden, if you've ever seen those banners, and then the next day it was abandon Brandon, and he's bitter about it. And you know what? Maybe he should be, because he got 14 million votes. And you know who never got a single vote for president ever from anyone? Yeah, that's right. Vice President Giggles, Kamala Harris. No one ever voted for her to be the nominee or the president for anything. This almost really does just sound straight out of House of Cards. You know, I think that they would have never believed many of the plot lines that led to this, but it does have just an eerie similarity to some of that. Well, who they is, Bobby, can go after them. I don't think that the House of Representatives, in the context of an election, can be as effective right now at going after Biden the same way they went after Trump. But I will say that this is actually an important item of business right after Election Day. If it can't in some way draw attention to the problems of electing Kamala Harris, then I actually think that one way or the other, this should actually happen. That if a president was doing all this stuff, he should be held accountable. And, letting him sail off into the sunset while he screws over the country, no, thank you. Well, so that's some of the national news. I did mention about the protesters. A DNC protester says police wounded, tackled, and choked her and her peers. But you know what? That's okay, because police are allowed to do that to people, like they did in Washington, D.C. Some Januaries ago. They're allowed to do stuff to protesters if the people who are protesting are protesting Democrats and disagreeing with what Democrats are doing. So I guess they're all going to find out that if you start raining on the Democrat Party's parade, it's open season on you. And suddenly, if there are abuses by police, there's not going to be any consequences for it, guaranteed. In fact, I'm pretty sure that the protesters are going to end up looking like they were some kind of insurrectionists or something. What do you think? They apparently, some of these protesters broke through the Secret Service perimeter, as we know from what occurred in Pennsylvania with the attempted assassination of President Trump. Breaking through Secret Service perimeters, not too hard, and it doesn't require a genius. And the Secret Service, well, it's just not going to get any better this week, I don't think. So, take that for what you will. There's been some polling in the presidential race. Kamala Harris, one article said Kamala Harris suffered a triple blow before the DNC starts, showing that she's actually still down in Pennsylvania, according to a Neapolitan News Service survey. And I don't know what that is, but and it was done between August 12th and 14th. And they said nationwide also Trump was leading Harris. Trump's margin had gone up a little bit in that nationwide poll, but nationwide polls don't really matter. He's leading Harris by 1 in Pennsylvania. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is getting a 5% of the vote in that. So it's 44 Trump, 43 Harris, 5% Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And let's see. Well, in the Senate race is close there, but the Democrats slightly ahead of the Republican. Bob Casey's the incumbent, leading Dave McCormick. I don't know. I think Pennsylvania is kind of the microcosm of which way this country goes. It used to be Florida and Ohio were the swing states. They're red states now. I guess when swing states get tired of being swing states, they become red states in some cases. And that's what happened with a couple of them. Now, there's a lot of other polling information that seems to come out every day. So the very same day, in a separate poll, said that Vice President Harris was leading Trump by more than the margin of error in 7 competitive states. Let me see what the poll was. Focal data for Semaphore. I don't know what that is. thought Semaphore was like a national security thing, but Michigan, they said 51% to 44%. Wisconsin, 50% to 44%. Nevada, 48 to 44%. And those are states that Trump had been leading Biden in. Now, these polls bounce all over the place. Real Clear Politics average of polls likes to average them over time and show where those trend. I think we should wait, see what happens after the DNC. Will they get another sugar high off of all the media attention and having all these Democrat luminaries show up and celebrities show up and make speeches and cry and do all kinds of stuff like that, and lie, and then a couple weeks after that, maybe we'll have a better idea of where this race is at, like Labor Day, post Labor Day. By the way, little international news: Ukraine apparently has wiped out the Kursk bridge and crippled Russian logistics. Russia is deploying what are known as space troops to defend the town of Kursk. And so I don't know, there's a couple months ago, it sounded like Ukraine is losing. They got some additional weapons. Now it sounds like they're at least on the offensive someplace. I have no idea what's really happening. I haven't been able to follow it, but it does sound like that maybe there's been one of these things that does happen sometimes, which is that they shift momentum back and forth, and in this case, as the summer gives way to fall, I guess this is going to be some of the remaining offensives until they hit the rainy season and then the cold weather. And I guess they have to get to the winter again before they can do something. Yes, Bobby, I think those probably are Democrat polls. I think you're right. I can post those too. I don't know if, did I post? Yeah, I didn't post both sets, but this is Newsweek. And again, Newsweek, a little odd sometimes. Let's see here. Why is it not letting me? There we go. So there's the polls here. I'll get back and post those for you. And so, but like I said, there's developments going on in this. I don't really know that we know which way this is going to go, except that Vladimir Putin keeps threatening like nuclear war or something every few weeks. And I don't know if it's very effective for him to do that, but they are shifting people away from Russia's aerospace forces that are usually in one region, and they've shifted them to Kursk in order to defend this. So I guess that's what they mean by space troops. Let's see here. So there are some Republicans, by the way, that are going to appear at, or so-called Republicans, they're going to appear at the Democrat National Convention. Adam Kinzinger, famous for crying. Ana Navarro, complete moron. And those are two that are listed. Navarro is one of these people that's on MSLSD, I think, or ABC and The View. And so she's really just a never Trumper that has hated him all along and frankly is completely worthless. And, I think in addition, Adam Kinzinger was on the January 6th commission, and that was a complete fraud. So they're going to come up there and try and reinforce the whole narrative of the Democrats. I think that what people are going to do is they're going to ignore this. It's going to be more of the same. They're going to have Steven Spielberg produce part of it. Can you believe that? Which is just weird. I guess if you have to create fiction and sell it to people, then Steven Spielberg does sound like an option. Maybe that's right. So back to some of the news that we were talking about before. Did I post the impeachable? I did. Yes, good. I think we should talk a little Oregon news now, because here's something that really stood out to me. Tina Kotek is rated the #1 least popular governor in the United States. Kate Brown thought she had it locked up, and Tina Kotek moved right in and took it over. There's a poll that's done on all 50 of the state governors, and I believe it's every 3 months. And it's called the Morning Consult. And Tina Kotek placed at the bottom of this poll. She has a 45% approval, which gives her the lowest approval rating and least liked governor in America, as rated by each governor's own citizens. There's a sizable undecided population, which contributes to this number being maybe something we should take with a grain of salt for now, which that's spared her from the high disapproval ratings that Kate Brown used to achieve. In other words, there's a bunch of people who don't even know who the governor of Oregon is, and they don't care. But apparently they have been complaining that Kotek has been absent, aloof, and too liberal is among the reasons why. And then she also has her wife, who she has been trying to turn into a paid sort of quasi governmental office where she goes in and interferes with government affairs and makes policy, which has led to a mass exodus of top aides from Tina Kotek's office. But she doesn't care. And you know what? I hope she doesn't care all the way to Election Day 2026. Meanwhile, I think people can rest assured that we haven't seen any big changes. We haven't seen any big improvements. In fact, some things may have actually gotten worse. And one of the signs that things are getting worse is that there's an outflow of people from Multnomah County led by the wealthier households. People who have a fair amount of money are leaving the city of Portland and Multnomah County as the population declines. The average incomes of households moving into and out of Multnomah County, moving in, average $73,541. That's the household, so that's going to be two incomes. Moving out, $104,542. And you know what's probably weighing that down, and maybe not even covered in this, are all the drug addicted homeless that came to Oregon to enjoy our decriminalized fentanyl and meth parties in Portland. And so that would not only explain why the population's declined, but that the economic well-being of the city has literally fallen through the floor and may not recover for quite some time. This is something to watch. Because when this happens over time, what Democrats usually do is they say they're running out of money as they spend more money to fix a problem that can't be fixed by money, and they will raise taxes on the remaining people, which will accelerate the departure of people from the city. They're just not, they don't get it, and they're not going to get it. So yeah, this is something to watch. And Representative Deal, we're going to have him on tomorrow night's show, and he has put out an interesting post over the weekend that says the 10 Oregon wildfire factoid updates, and he just gives people an update. A record amount of acres burned, 32 homes and 95 structures. There's a number of different shifting winds and things for people to know. What are the current fires and where are they? Good information. He's also going to talk to us tomorrow about energy. We bring him on quite often. He talks about not only Measure 110, he's going to talk about wildfires. He's going to talk about nuclear energy, of which he's a champion and of which Oregon is a leader, and of which the Democrats are slow to the uptake on this because they want clean energy, and the only thing that could possibly provide the amount of clean energy needed for a growing, affluent global economy, not to mention the United States and Oregon, is nuclear energy, because wind doesn't work when it doesn't blow, And solar panels don't work when the sun doesn't shine, and they consume enormous amount of space, farmland, kill wildlife, confuse and injure whales, chop up birds, a whole bunch of stuff. And nuclear energy is now so safe, based on this company that is in Corvallis, NuScale, that it's absurd that we aren't going full tilt on that one. We're also going to talk about some revolution in waste processing. They're actually going to reprocess nuclear waste instead of store it, which dramatically reduces the amount of waste and uses it for energy, and also reduces the half-life and the danger of any waste that needs to be stored. So it's going to be really interesting. And then the other thing that Ed Deal is going to talk to us about tomorrow night is something I want to talk to you about right now, and we'll dive into more deeply tomorrow, which is Measure 118. Measure 118, there's a good Oregon Catalyst post that says the Measure 118 is trying to sell people two absurd lies. Measure 118 is a corporate tax, big, largest tax increase in Oregon history, that's going to be on businesses in order to create a universal basic income check that's just sent to everybody in the state who wants to have money and not work for it. And so it was Initiative Petition 17. It's going to hit corporations with over 25 million in sales, and with a 3% minimum tax rate tax. And it's on sales, not on profit, which means companies that are not making a profit basically are going to lose money. And it's going to give $750 to every single person in the state for anyone who's lived in Oregon for more than 200 days. So, all right, big rewards for all of the fentanyl and meth users who came here and are hanging in there for more than 200 days, because they're going to get money so they can go and kill themselves with more drugs. Anyway, this is an idea that's been tried and has dramatically failed in countries like Canada and Finland. And that's why we're going to experiment with it here in Oregon. And we're also going to drive out every company that earns more than 25 million in sales. And every company that's making almost 25 million in sales is going to leave if they can. And if they, but bottom line is, if they're a competitive company, they're going to take this, if they can, and pass it on to their customers. And when they pass it on to their customers, that's known as a price increase. And price increases, just for those who, any Democrats who don't know what a price increase looks like, it's called inflation. And they're great at creating inflation. So this is what Measure 118 promises to do. The two big lies are that it's going to put more cash in your pocket and boost local businesses in the economy, which is absurd, because that'll just drive up inflation the way they're doing it. And those businesses will have to charge more for their products, and the money will just be neutralized. They say it'll reduce poverty in our communities by 36%, not by the definition of increased prices for things. No, this is just helicopter money at the cost of damaging businesses that will think about leaving, and some that will never come here. Oregon's great at that. But the campaign to fight against Measure 118 has disclosed that they have received $5.8 million in donations from all of the different groups, industry groups, and individuals that are likely to be affected by this. One of those are grocery stores who have low margins. They operate on 1 to 3% profit margin, and this is a 3% tax on sales. If you like having grocery stores, then you might want to oppose this. And they're going to try to make sure that enough money is put forward to help everyone understand that. The businesses that have contributed, according to the Secretary of State, towards the are with the grocery retail pack, which represents Kroger, Albertson Safeway, and Costco. Winco Foods has also written a sizable check to this group. And there are other groups that are contributing to this as well. In addition to the grocery retail pack, Weyerhaeuser, Lithia Motors, Standard Insurance, Daimler Trucks, US Bank, and Roseburg Forest Products, to name a few. So the battle's going to be afoot. It's going to be on the ballot this fall. And, maybe this will bring out some people to vote who don't normally pay close attention in a presidential race, and maybe that'll help some down ballot races. So where are we? 6:49. So I know we started late. I like having groceries too. A lot of people think food comes from grocery stores, so they don't understand that if you get rid of grocery stores, you may have to go and drive out to a farm and get it yourself. And you know what? The farmers are none too happy with these people either right now. So that are coming up with ideas like this. What is that, Bobby? Jump to Washington for 200 days, get money from them, and then come back to Oregon for 200 days. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. I think Washington lacks the income tax. Yeah, you can just jump back and forth between the two states. Yeah, I don't know. There are farms, but I hope they all fight as if the Democrats are going to put them out of business, because frankly, that's where they're heading. They consider farms as just giant polluters who are exploiting, because they are exploiting animals. They oppose animal husbandry in many cases, as we've seen on the left. And so they also think that fertilizing soil is going to cause global warming. Therefore, they also have to put the fertilizer people out of business and go ahead and try to grow stuff without fertilizer. It doesn't work too well, not in the 21st century. So a couple other stories just to share with you here. I think this is fascinating because lawyers are now calling for changes to Oregon's sanctuary laws. And they've been on the books since the 1980s, but they've made immigration enforcement very difficult, almost impossible in the state. And as we've seen, this makes us a top destination to go and ship all the illegal immigrants that are streaming across the border, which we now know is somewhere in the neighborhood of 12.9 million people nationally. And so if you send them to Oregon and they commit crimes, basically the local law enforcement won't cooperate with Immigrations and Customs Enforcement at the federal level to have people sent out of the country so we can have less criminals, which means we get more criminals in a state where we've got a crime wave. So super awesome. There's a story about stalled gun control measure 114. Apparently it continues to divide Oregon, they said. It's the ministers versus the ranchers and the farmers. So this is real spin, because also the vote was extremely close. It was basically Multnomah County. It lost in every county except for Multnomah. And so it's 35 counties versus one that don't want it. And Measure 114 is the permit to purchase and the gun magazine limitation. It's stuck in appellate court right now in Oregon after a Harney County judge ruled it unconstitutional and suspended it from taking effect. So this is where we're at right now. And it's going to be interesting where this goes, because once this is resolved, you will find out if you actually have gun rights. But the Oregonian is trying to spin this as that people that it's sorry, I posted it twice there, but hey, never mind, it's fine. But they're trying to spin it as ministers versus ranchers and farmers in a state where a majority of 35 counties voted against it. it's a lot more than ranchers and farmers. So, and frankly, it's a lot more than ministers on the other side, but go figure. Here's an interesting story, and I'll wind up with this one tonight. 23 Subway stores close in Oregon and Washington. Months after a Subway franchise owner says a bank account was hacked and struggled to work through it, 23 stores have been closed in these two states. Subway stores are owned by independent franchisees. Cap 10 Enterprises owner Ann Bell, who owned 23 of them from Bend to Vancouver, shut them down. She told Coin6 News it all started when her bank account was hacked, and she lost hundreds of thousands of dollars from that specific account. However, she claimed the losses deemed that since the losses deemed fraud, it was not covered by the FDIC. She said she thought she could handle it, she could work through it, and that the money would come. So she borrowed the money from somewhere else just to stay afloat. And looking back now, she said her main concern the whole time was always paying her employees and making sure the employees could stay on, and that the vendors and other bills, they had to be delayed. But looking back, she said, maybe I should have changed that up a little bit and kind of spread the money out evenly. And so she's going to have to abandon these stores. It's kind of sad because all those people will lose their jobs. There's a lot of people like Subway, and now it's gone. And it's because, frankly, hackers. If hackers had gone in and if armed people had gone and shut down 23 stores by force, they would be arrested and serve jail time, except maybe in Portland. But hackers do it, and it's no biggie, and no one has to pay for it. So I think this just tells you this is what America looks like under Biden-Harris, and this is what Oregon looks like under Tina Kotek. This type of stuff happens. Nobody tries to do anything about it, and we need to change who's running this country, who's running this state. Final note, there was a story over the weekend that I think I should just share with you. We talked about it before, those giant 900-foot tall windmills off the coast of Oregon, Curry and Coos counties. The Bureau of Ocean Energy Management has decided to move ahead with them because they said that issuing the releases or the leases for these locations had no environmental impact. So they're just going to do it. Even though the opposition to this has been absolutely overwhelming, and so much so that these two counties actually have on their ballot this fall referenda that are going to ask the citizens of those counties if they want their counties to actively oppose the wind farms off that coast. Kind of know that this is going to be overwhelming, and exactly. And we'll talk tomorrow because there's been some reaction, particularly in the 4th district, because there's a congressional race where this issue is at stake. And we will talk tomorrow a little bit about Val Hoyle, who did nothing but ask for more time to have people listen to and ignore the local residents. And Monique Despain, who is the retired Air Force colonel challenging Val Hoyle for this seat, who has come out with some very strong words condemning not only the decision, but also condemning Val Hoyle for her abject failure to do anything about it and stand with the people of her own district. So that'll be a good topic for tomorrow. I just wanted to put it on your radar tonight. Read it and come ready to talk and comment. And I'm going to wrap it up tonight. But I think we should put them all in downtown Portland. We should put all the windmills in downtown Portland in a giant cluster. And then we should build homeless camps around them. and then just surround it with a wall and let it just be a zone where liberals can go and hang out and enjoy the utopia of 900-foot tall windmills, free fentanyl and meth, and crime, homelessness. Quite the utopia. So anyway, yeah, thanks. I just came up with that. We'll see. We'll see if they take me up on that idea. But until tomorrow night, I want to wish everyone a good evening. Bust out the barf bags for the DNC, get a good supply, and I will see you tomorrow night on the next episode of The Captive Audience.